My wife tried to frame me for cheating to break the prenup, but I turned the tables. My God, you're disgusting. My mother warned me about men like you. That's what she screamed the day she tried to burn my world down. I said nothing. I let her storm ahead and file first, just like she planned. But what she didn't expect was that I'd use the trap she set to destroy her case entirely. Hey Reddit. I+ here. Real name's Adrian Knox, 35 years old. I specialize in counter-surveillance systems and provide consultation for private security firms. Not exactly a glamorous gig, but it's stable and quiet, just the way I like it. I cleared my student debt by age 30, bought a modest home in Portland outright, and have a healthy savings portfolio. I live simply, no flashy clothes, no social media stunts. Just structure, caution, and quiet consistency. Then came Mara. She was 32 when we met. A vet tech with a calm gaze and a disarming smile. We were introduced at a friend's birthday picnic. Unlike most, she wasn't loud or craving attention. She made dry jokes about influencer culture, claimed to despise materialism, and always carried the earthy scent of cedarwood and wet dog shampoo. I remember thinking, finally, someone genuine. At first, she seemed perfect, funny, sensible, low maintenance. She talked about rescuing shelter dogs and starting a vegetable garden in the backyard. We connected on weekend camping trips, long walks through the neighborhood, and our shared disdain for people obsessed with digital validation. A year in, I asked her to marry me. She cried like I'd handed her a galaxy. Still, I was careful. I asked her to sign a prenuptial agreement, one I had prepared years prior with my family's lawyer. It wasn't harsh, just protective. The deal was simple. If one of us cheated, the other would get everything. If she walked away without cause, she'd only leave with what she brought. Which was, a 2014 Subaru, 2 second-hand bookshelves, and a milk frother that rarely worked. She reacted like I'd just tossed divorce papers in her lap. She stormed out. Came back in tears days later. Said she felt insulted and accused me of not trusting her. But after enough, I get it, you're just protecting yourself, lines. She signed the document. I thought that was the end of it. We got married in a quiet garden ceremony. For a while, life was peaceful. She threw herself into decorating the house, spending weeks obsessing over wallpaper patterns like it was a full-time job. She said she needed some time before returning to work. I didn't push. I wanted her to feel settled. But about 6 months in, things started shifting. Mara's moods flipped like switches. One day she'd be warm and affectionate, the next, she'd freeze me out completely. She began saying she felt suffocated. I offered her time alone, suggested she visit her friends for weekends, encouraged solo getaways. But every offer was twisted into an accusation that I was withdrawing, becoming emotionally unavailable. Then it got darker. One night, I came home early and found her standing in the hallway, whispering tensely into her phone. The second she saw me, she flinched like a thief caught in the act. She claimed she'd been talking to her sister. I left it alone. 2 days later, she orchestrated the ambush. We were on our way to one of those uncomfortable Sunday lunches at her sister's place when she suddenly reached under the passenger seat and pulled out a phone. "What's this?" she asked, holding it up like it was laced with anthrax. It was an old Android I'd never seen before. She tapped it quickly, like she already knew the passcode. Her expression dropped into something I can only describe as scripted shock. "Oh my God," she whispered, shaking. "You're cheating on me? With someone named Belle." She turned the screen toward me. A series of green bubble messages appeared, supposedly from me, to someone named Belle. Messages like, "Can't wait to see you again." She has no clue. That red dress was everything. It felt like I was watching a bad play. "This isn't my phone," I said. "That's not even how I text. Look at the structure." She erupted, screamed, burst into tears, threw the car door open before we even parked. Her overnight bag, already packed, was in the back seat. She slammed the door and stormed off like I just confessed to murder. When we arrived at her sister's, she created a full-blown scene in the driveway. Cried, yelled about betrayal and emotional abuse. Compared me to her father. I sat silently, numb, slowly realizing this was staged. All of it. That night, I called my best friend Lucas. He works in digital forensics, mostly helping law enforcement. I showed him the phone. After 5 seconds, he said, "She planted this." 2 hours later, he had a full extraction report. All the messages had been copied from her notes app. There was no recipient, no actual conversation. Just a fake chat log pasted into a texting app to simulate a back and forth. Metadata confirmed every message was created 2 hours before we left for her sister's. She wasn't just trying to leave. She was trying to win. She wanted the house, the money, everything I had worked for. And the only loophole in the prenup was if I cheated. She had tried to outmaneuver someone who builds anti-deception tools for a living. 2 days later, I was served. Divorce papers. Accusations of emotional neglect, infidelity, and financial abuse. She even included evidence, screenshots, a photo of her crying in the mirror. Subtle, right? I didn't respond directly. I just filed a counterclaim, with receipts. Digital proof of the fake messages. Surveillance footage of her rehearsing the discovery scene. A PayPal receipt showing she paid a shady private investigator to follow me. Screenshots of her Reddit posts asking for advice on fabricating a cheating story for legal advantage. Then we subpoenaed her sister's text messages. Found a goldmine. Messages like, "If I play it right, I walk with half. If he buys it, I get all of it." My lawyer, Naomi, a calm-faced beast in heels, looked at the whole file and said, she wanted a role. Let's see if the court gives her an Oscar or a felony. On the day of the hearing, Mara walked in dressed like a knockoff Jackie Kennedy. Pearls, beige, and all. Her new attorney, fresh from law school, tried to float a quiet settlement. We declined. Inside the courtroom, Naomi unloaded everything. The burner phone. The artificial messages. Video of Mara in the mirror the night before her fake meltdown, whispering, "Just pretend he stabbed you." Bank transfers. Reddit posts. Emails to the investigator asking whether printed screenshots would hold up in court. By the second slide, her lawyer went mute. Mara stopped blinking altogether. The judge turned to her and asked if she wanted to respond. She lowered her eyes and muttered, "I just wanted to feel safe." His answer? "You manipulated the truth for personal advantage. That's not protection. That's fraud." Final ruling. Prenup upheld. No spousal support. She walked into court hoping to take everything. She left with a Subaru and a broken frother. The judge didn't just rule against her, he made her pay for every legal fee. She walked out of that courtroom with exactly what she came in with, an old Subaru, a busted milk frother, and a reputation shattered beyond repair. After the hearing, she followed me into the parking lot. "Adrian, wait please," she called out. I didn't stop. You don't owe closure to someone who tried to ruin your name with doctored screenshots and well-timed tears. She tried again a week later, this time through her mother. I got a voicemail. She was scared, Adrian. She loved you. She made a mistake. A mistake? No one accidentally engineers a 6-month digital hoax, fabricates a mistress from thin air, and pays someone to fake a paper trail. I changed every lock. Closed every joint account. Filed a restraining order after she showed up one night trying to force her way in through the back porch, just to talk. I sleep fine now. She married a quiet guy who writes anti-surveillance tools and assumed I was easy to outsmart. She forgot I was trained to detect threats, even emotional ones. She was the last virus I ever let into my system. And I built the firewall myself. A month passed. No texts. No calls. I thought we'd finally reach the end, courtroom drama behind me, silence as my reward. But people like Mara, and the women who raise them, don't disappear. They regroup. It started with a phone call I ignored. Then another. Then a voicemail I never bothered to open. And then came a letter. Handwritten. Not from Mara. From her mother, Claire. Claire had always made my skin crawl. She smiled too much, complimented the furniture while scanning it like she was prepping a listing. She called me stable, like she was describing a rental car. Behind the perfume and pearls, she was the blueprint for Mara, someone who taught her daughter that love was a transaction, and vulnerability just a tactic. The letter read, Adrian, I'm not writing as Mara's mother, but as someone who always saw your goodness. You were gentle, responsible, thoughtful. We all make mistakes. Mara made hers. but I've watched her unravel these past few weeks. You were her foundation. She's asking for a chance. One conversation. Just coffee. Not for her, just for closure. Warmly, Claire. It wasn't about healing. It was a test. A lever. An attempt to see if I'd flinch. I waited a day. Then I forwarded the letter to Naomi, my lawyer. She wrote back. They're checking for weakness. Stay firm. And I did. But they weren't finished. A week later, Ivy and I attended a small tech awards dinner. I wasn't nominated, just there for the networking. Halfway through, Ivy was mingling while I stepped outside for some air. That's when I saw them. Claire and Mara. Standing by the side entrance, eyes on me like they were approaching a cornered dog. Mara wore a plain beige sweater. No makeup. Claire had the same artificial concern she used to wear at Sunday dinners while innocently asking about my retirement savings. They walked up slowly. Adrian, Claire began, this isn't an ambush. You've made it impossible to speak with you any other way. I raised a brow. There's a reason for that. Mara stepped forward. I'm not here to fix everything, she said quietly. I just want to talk. Talk, I said. About how you forged evidence and hired someone to fabricate a betrayal that never happened? She winced. Claire quickly stepped in. She was unwell, Adrian. We got her help. She's making progress. I shook my head. She's not healing. She's rebranding. Claire's smile dropped. Mara looked down, clutching invisible guilt like a prop. I know you're with someone now, she whispered, but can't we just start over? As friends. Friends. This was the woman who tried to legally strip me of everything I owned, make me a public villain, and call it justice. I looked them both square in the eyes. There's no friendship. No empathy. No more access. Claire's expression hardened. So that's it, she snapped. After everything she's been through? I stepped closer. Everything she's been through? I repeated, calm and sharp. Your daughter built a digital case against me. She tried to forge infidelity, dissolve a prenup, take a house she didn't help pay for, and demolish my career. And she almost pulled it off. If I hadn't known how to trace metadata, I'd be jobless, homeless, and labeled a cheater. And now, here you both are, wearing designer jackets and queuing up the tears, asking me to unlock a door that only ever existed in your imaginations. Mara's voice cracked. I still love you, I replied without flinching. You love what came with me. The home. The safety. The lifestyle. But not me. Because if you had loved me, you wouldn't have tried to annihilate me just to upgrade your exit strategy. Claire reached out to touch my arm. I stepped away. And then I said the last thing I would ever say to either of them. Love doesn't knock after betrayal. And trust shatters only once. Then I turned and walked back inside. Ivy saw my face as I returned to the table. They tried again, she asked, raising her glass. I nodded. Last gasp. She tapped her glass against mine. Rest in peace, Mara and Mom. That night, I blocked Claire's number 2. I had already changed every password, every account, every emergency contact. But this wasn't about protection anymore. This was about dignity. The kind you reclaim, piece by piece, after surviving a defamation campaign, a legal ambush, and 2 master manipulators who thought guilt and nostalgia were weapons. I never answered another message. Never responded to another letter. Never opened the door again. Because people like that don't want closure. They want sequels. And I don't do reruns. When someone sets your life on fire and then begs for mercy once they get burned, let them burn. You don't owe water to the one holding the match. Let them learn the hard way. Once the bridge is gone and all that remains are ashes, the only thing left to do is watch you walk away, with peace behind you, and someone better by your side. Because real strength doesn't shout. It walks quietly, and never looks back.